In this episode, we focus on a problem that quietly destroys readiness over time. Plans drift out of date. Organizations can put real effort into building a continuity of operations plan, COOP, a business continuity plan, BCP, and a disaster recovery plan, DRP. But if those plans are not actively maintained, they become unreliable exactly when they are needed most. People change roles, phone numbers change, vendors change, systems are replaced, and the mission itself can evolve, which means yesterday's plan can become today's confusion. Managing the plan update process is the discipline of keeping contingency plans accurate, usable, and trusted, without turning maintenance into a burdensome bureaucracy that teams avoid. For beginners, the main idea is that readiness is not a one-time project. It is an ongoing cycle where plans are reviewed, updated, verified, and communicated so they reflect the real organization, not the organization from 2 years ago. A current plan reduces chaos during a disruption because it provides correct contact paths, correct decision authority, correct priorities, and correct assumptions. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A good way to begin is to understand what makes a plan go stale, because the causes of staleness often reveal where your update process must focus. Some staleness comes from people changes, such as staff turnover, leadership succession changes, or reorganizations that shift who owns which function. Some staleness comes from technology changes, like new applications, retired servers, changed network paths, or new authentication methods that alter recovery access. Other staleness comes from business changes, such as new services, new customers, new operating locations, or new regulatory obligations that change what must continue and what must be protected. Plans can also go stale because of external changes, like vendors updating support models, changes in supply chains, or changes in regional risks. If you only update plans once a year, these changes pile up and the plan becomes a museum exhibit. Managing updates means designing a process that is sensitive to change, not only to calendar dates. The plan update process starts with ownership, because without ownership, updates are everyone's problem and therefore no one's problem. Ownership should be clear at 2 levels: who owns the overall plan and who owns specific plan sections that depend on specialized knowledge. For example, someone might own the overall continuity program and schedule reviews, while technical teams own recovery steps for their services and business teams own minimum process definitions. Ownership also includes accountability for accuracy, meaning someone is responsible for verifying that their section still matches reality. A plan that depends on a single owner for all details often fails because one person cannot track all changes. A plan with no owner fails because no one feels responsible for keeping it alive. A workable process spreads ownership across those who control change, while keeping a central coordinator who ensures updates happen and are consistent. Next, you need clear triggers for updates, because plans should change when reality changes, not only when the calendar says so. A trigger can be a major system upgrade, a new critical vendor, a change in leadership roles, a relocation, or a discovered weakness from an exercise or real incident. Triggers can also include changes to the business impact analysis, BIA, because if priorities or time tolerances change, continuity and recovery strategies may need adjustment. A common beginner mistake is thinking updates are only needed after a disaster, but the best time to update is when you make the changes that would otherwise break the plan. That means the update process should connect to change management and service lifecycle processes, so that when critical services are added or modified, plan sections are reviewed. Even without talking about specific tools, the principle is that plan updates should be part of how the organization manages change, not an afterthought that happens later. A strong update process also requires version control thinking, even if the plan is not managed in a technical system. Version control here means knowing what the current approved plan is, what changed, why it changed, and when it changed. This prevents teams from using different versions of the plan during a crisis, which can cause contradictory actions. It also supports learning, because when a plan change improves outcomes, the organization can see what was adjusted and replicate the improvement elsewhere. Version control does not have to be complicated, but it must be disciplined enough that the plan is a single source of truth. For beginners, imagine a recipe. If multiple versions exist and everyone follows a different one, the result is inconsistent and sometimes unsafe. A plan update process should keep the plan coherent by controlling how changes are introduced and how old versions are retired. Verification is the most important step in updating, because updating words is not the same as updating capability. Verification means confirming that the updated information is correct and usable, such as testing phone numbers, confirming that escalation paths still reach the right people, and confirming that recovery access paths are still valid. Verification also includes checking that the plan's assumptions remain realistic, such as whether an alternate location is still available, whether a vendor agreement still covers emergency support, and whether staff can still perform key tasks with the current technology. Without verification, updates can introduce new errors, like listing a new role but assigning it to someone who does not have authority or training. Verification should be built into the update process as a standard step, not an optional extra when time allows. The beginner takeaway is that the plan's purpose is action under pressure, so updates should be validated as if someone will need them on the worst day. Consistency across COOP, BCP, and DRP is another key maintenance challenge, because these plans can drift in different directions if updates are not coordinated. One plan might list one set of priorities, while another plan lists a conflicting order of restoration. One might list a different chain of command or different contact points, causing confusion about decision authority. Managing updates means ensuring shared elements, like leadership roles, communications channels, and essential functions, remain aligned across all plans. This often requires a periodic cross-plan review where the program owner checks for mismatches and resolves them with stakeholders. For beginners, think of it as making sure 3 maps of the same city use the same street names and landmarks, because in an emergency you do not want to discover that the maps disagree. Alignment reduces the chance that teams interpret plans differently during a crisis. Another critical element is managing plan complexity so the plan remains readable and usable. Plans tend to grow over time as each test or incident adds new lessons, new exceptions, and new details. While learning is good, uncontrolled growth can make plans too long and too detailed for people to use under stress. A good update process includes a discipline of simplification, where updates aim to clarify, streamline, and remove obsolete details rather than always adding. Some details belong in supporting documents that are maintained by specific teams, while the core plan should remain clear about roles, triggers, priorities, and high-level procedures. This does not mean making the plan vague. It means keeping the plan focused on what people need to decide and do during disruption. The update process should include periodic cleanup, where outdated assumptions and unnecessary complexity are removed. A plan that is shorter and clearer is often more resilient than a plan that is longer and more detailed, because people can actually follow it. Communication of updates is also essential, because the best plan is useless if people do not know it changed. A plan update process should include a method for notifying relevant stakeholders when major changes occur, especially changes to roles, contact paths, decision authority, or recovery sequencing. Communication should also be targeted, because not everyone needs every detail, but everyone needs to know the parts that affect their role and expectations. If updates are communicated poorly, people may rely on memory of an older plan, which can create mistakes during real events. Communication can be simple, but it must be consistent, and it should emphasize what changed and why. This supports trust in the plan, because people are more likely to follow a plan they believe is maintained carefully. For beginners, the key idea is that plans are shared agreements, and agreements only work when participants know what the agreement currently is. Finally, managing plan updates means integrating lessons learned from tests and real events, because those lessons are often the most valuable input. After an exercise, findings should be translated into plan changes, role clarifications, dependency updates, and verification improvements. After a real incident, the plan update process should capture what worked and what failed under real pressure, then adjust accordingly. This is how the plan evolves from theory into practice. However, lessons learned should be prioritized because trying to address every small observation at once can overwhelm teams and delay meaningful improvements. A practical update process selects the changes that most reduce risk, assigns owners, and verifies implementation. Over time, this creates a steady improvement rhythm rather than a cycle of panic after an event. The goal is to make the plan reflect reality and to make reality steadily more resilient. Managing the plan update process keeps contingency plans current by turning maintenance into a structured, repeatable discipline. Clear ownership ensures someone is accountable for accuracy, while change-based triggers ensure the plan evolves when systems, people, vendors, and obligations change. Version control keeps a single source of truth, and verification ensures updates reflect real capability rather than corrected wording. Cross-plan alignment prevents conflicting priorities across COOP, BCP, and DRP, while complexity management keeps plans usable under stress instead of bloated and unreadable. Finally, disciplined communication and integration of lessons learned ensure the organization actually uses the updated plan and steadily improves over time. When this process works, contingency plans stop being dusty documents and become living tools that the organization can trust when disruption is real.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.